Good morning everyone, and good morning to Mrs. Au Aceveda. So today we were gonna bring you about the Department Order 174 series of 2017, Article 106 to 109 of the Labor Code. So we will be covering about the employer-employee relationship in a contracting arrangement. Next is the labor-only contracting, requirements for contractors, rights of contractors' employees, and of course, the Department Order 174 Certificate of Registration. So what is employer-employee relationship in contracting arrangement? So basically, it is an employment relationship wherein the employer has a right to manipulate or control the actions of his or her employees beyond on the given specification set by a company, or it is the agreed action or methods that needs to be accomplished. So how will it determine? So it will be determined through the fourfold test or the control test. So it includes the selection and engagement of the employee, the payment wages, the power of dismissal, and the employer's power to control the employee with respect to the means and methods by which the work is to be accomplished. So the fourfold test is a necessary element that could trace and determine if an employer engages one of the mentioned element a while ago to their employees. So for an example of this is if a manager fired an employee who was engaged or committed on a crime, then he or she has the right to discharge his or her employee. So why employer-employee relationship exists? So it exists because of the increase of lacking of protection on the dependent workers, and there are some combination of reasons why. So it includes the scope of the law is too narrow to be interpreted or to be understood, and then the poor formulation of law, which could lead to undescribable or unclear, and then sometimes it could be an objectively undescribable kasi you will not know if an employee engages on employment relationship or not. And then syempre being in compliance and in the enforcement of law is lacking. So through this relationship, it helps and guides the employees to fully understand what is the purpose of the laws and what could be its benefits for them. So siyempre hindi naman lahat ng employee kapag binasa nila yung mga batas na nasasakop dun sa company na in-applyan nila is they will not truly understand well. So by the help of their employer to discuss that certain laws, they will understand thoroughly. So unti-unti nilang naiintindihan yon kung meron siyang kasamang explanation at guide ng employer nila. So there are four types of primary types of business relationship. First is the independent contractor. So he or she only provides necessary supplies and services to the company. So they are not considered to an employer-employee relationship. For example, isang civil engineer and then he or she was contracted to work or render his services and supplies to a hotel establishment or hospital establishment. So kukunin ka ng isang company as a civil engineer and then bibigyan ka nila ng kontrata na sa ganitong month and then year dapat magawa mo yung project na to, ganyan. So yun yung independent contractor. Next is statutory employee. So this is considered as between the normal or common law employees or yung natural lang na empleyado tapos yung contractors. So ano ang kaibahan nito? So statutory employee, these are special workers with special jobs. Equivalent to syempre ibang income yan ang sinusweldo nila. So they are required to report their rules of income, which makes their gross income be fair. So take note that statutory employee, they would be categorized as independent contractor. But some will treated themselves as statutory employee. Bakit? To avoid paying federal income tax payment. So, syempre, iba nga naman ang sweldo ng contractor sa employee. So, kung malaki ang sweldo ni contractor, so malaki rin ang babayaran niyang tax. Kung maliit naman ang sweldo ni employee, maliit lang din ang babayaran niyang tax. So, yung iba is parang wise decision na lang, sineset na lang nila yung sarili nila as statutory employee. So, ang dahilan lang nun is the federal income tax payment. So, there are 4 categories of statutory employee where you can categorize what kind of employees that. So, first is the drivers na nagdi-deliver ng meats, vegetables, bakery products, poultry, fish, and beefs, mga ganyan. So, sila yung mga drivers, no? Mga normal drivers. Then, second category is the full-time insurance salesman na nag-work sa isang one-life insurance company. And then, third category is the work from home, which is determined by an employer. So, legal work from home worker siya. And then, finally is the fourth category, the full-time traveling salesperson who grabs orders from retailers, wholesalers, contractors, restaurants, operators of hotel, etc. So, yung mga Grab na yan, yung mga Totok or Food Panda, yung mga couriers ng Shopee, like JNT, yung isa, yung Black Express yata yun. Basta yun, yung mga courier ng Shopee. So, yun, it is categorized as statutory employees. Next is the statutory non-employee. So, it is a kind of worker that is commonly called as self-employed. So, wherein they run a service that is contracted on a written statement that they will not be treated as regular employees and their payment will be directly on how they will make their sales. So, like me, I'm a self-employed, so I work on e-business loading, the TPC or Telepreneur Corporation. So, I'm a self-employed. So, meron din kaming kasulatan, written document na we are not treated as not regular employee, but we are self-employed. So, yun nga, example na to is mga retailer, mga wholesalers, mga dealers, ayan, ganyan. And then, last one is the employee, or yung tinatawag nating normal employee, who is segmented if an employer has on control based on what he or she rendered as their performance. So that is where a person will be called as an employee. So it depends upon the employer if you meet their objectives.
Labor-only contracting refers to an arrangement wherein the contractor or subcontractor merely recruits or supplies or places workers to perform a job or work for a principal. There are 2 types or 2 variants of labor-only contracting. First is when the contractor or subcontractor does not exercise the right to control over the performance of the work of the employees. Second is when the contractor or subcontractor does not have substantial capital or does not have investments in the form of tools, equipments, machineries, supervision, work premises. And the contractors or subcontractors employees recruited and placed are performing activities which are directly related to the main business operation of the principal. Labor-only contracting, the statute creates an employer-to-employee relationship for a comprehensive purpose to prevent a circumvention of labor laws. The contractor is considered merely an agent of the principal employer, and the latter is responsible to the employees of the labor-only contract, as if such employees had been directly employed by the principal employer. A finding of a labor-only contractor is equivalent to finding that an employer-employee relationship exists between the company and the labor contractor's employee, the relationship being such as provided by the law itself. In technical terms, the principal employer is solidarily liable with the labor-only contractor for all the rightful claims of the employees. Job contracting versus labor contracting versus labor plus contractors. First is job contracting, or known as legitimate job contracting or subcontracting. It refers to an arrangement whereby principal agrees to put out or form out with the contractor or subcontractor the performance or completion of a specific job, work, or service within a definite or predetermined period, regardless of whether such job, work, or service is to be performed or completed within or outside the premises of the principal. A person is considered engaged in a legitimate job contracting or subcontracting if the following conditions occur. First, is the contractor carries on a distinct and independent business and partakes the contract work on his account under his own responsibility, according to his own manner and method, free from the control and direction of his employer or principal in all matters connected with the performance of his work except as to its result. Next is the contractor has substantial capital or investment. And last is the agreement between the principal and the contractor or subcontractor assures that the contractual employee's entitlement to all labor and occupational safety and health standards, free exercise of the right to self-organization, security of tenure, and social welfare benefits. Labor-only contracting, on the other hand, is defined under Article 106 of the Labor Code. It refers to an arrangement where the contractor who does not have substantial capital or investment in the form of tools, equipments, machineries, work premises, among others, supply workers to an employer, and the workers recruited are performing activities which are directly related to the principal business of such employers. Well, is there significance of knowing the difference of job contracting and labor-only contracting? Yes, there is. Job contracting is valid and recognized by law, while the labor-only contracting is a prohibited act. A finding that a contractor is a labor-only contractor is equivalent to a declaration that there is an employer-to-employee relationship between the principal and the employees of the labor-only contractor. In such case, the labor-only contractor shall be responsible to the workers in the manner and extent as if said workers were directly employed by him. Labor plus contractors, unlike labor-only contractors, are required by Article 106 of the Labor Code to be sufficiently capitalized or to possess their own equipments for use by other workers as they work in the premises of the genuine employer. Labor plus contractors also execute a service contract with the genuine employer, stating that the former is the employer of the deployed workers and that the labor plus contractors can pull out any deployed worker anytime for any cost and reassign him to other vacant position in the contractor's other clients. This kind of arrangement is legal and is allowed under Article 106 of the Labor Code. The labor unions all over the archipelago are vehemently against the genuine employer labor plus contracting. To the labor unions, this is a worst form of contractualization. This form, labor-only contracting, is not much of a headache to the labor unions because in the first place, it is already illegal. In the second place, the deployed workers have the effective remedy of suing the genuine employer for correct wages and benefits since the labor-only contracting camouflage has time and again been undressed and trounced by our labor tribunals. While on the other hand, because of its legal cover, the second form of contractualization, the genuine employer labor plus contracting, has thrived in a labor horizon and there seems to be no stopping in its growth.
So here's the requirement for new applications in applying for the Certificate of Registration for Contractors. Take note that you'll be needing 3 copies of these 10 requirements. So the first requirement is a duly accomplished application form with TIN number or the taxpayer identification number with attached proof of compliance with the substantial capital requirement of 5 million pesos. You can get this form in the Department of Labor and Employment Regional Offices. So second one is certified true copy of the following. So the first is the certified true copy of the Certificate of Registration with paid capital of 5 million. You can acquire this in the Securities and Exchange Commission. Next is a certified true copy of the Department of Trade and Industry Registration Certificate and the DTI certification with net worth of 5 million pesos. You can acquire this in the Department of Trade and Industry. Next is a certified true copy of the Certificate of Registration from the CDA with the 5 million paid up capital stocks or shares. You can acquire this in the Cooperative Development Authority. Next is the certified copy of registration for the DOLE if the applicant is a union. You can acquire this in the DOLE. So again, you can choose one from either four of the certificate mentioned. Third one is a certified true copy of license or business permit or mayor's permit. You can acquire this in your local government unit where you operate your business. Again, this is different from the second requirement. Next is a copy of duly audited financial statement for corporation, partnership, cooperative, or labor organization, or a copy of latest income tax return for sole proprietorship. You can acquire this in the company record or in a bureau of Internal Revenue or the BIR. Fifth one is a certified listing with proof of ownership of lease contract of facilities, tools, equipments, premises, implements, machineries, and work premises that are actually used by the contractor in performance of completion of the specific job or work contracted out. Sixth requirement is a sworn disclosure that the registrant, its officer, and owners or principal stockholders or any one of them has not been operating or previously operating as a contractor under a different business name or entity, or with pending cases of violation of DO 17-17 and or labor standards, or with the cancelled registrations. So in case of any foregoing has a pending case, a copy of the complaint and the latest status of the case shall be attached. So the seventh requirement is the listing of services to be contracted out in accordance with the primary purpose in the Articles of Incorporation. So number 8 is the number of employees, the total employees you have. So the ninth requirement is a commitment form specifying the increase of paid-up capital should there be increase in the number of workers. And lastly, the photo of the office building and the premises where the contractor holds the office. So with the issuance of DO 174 on its campaign against contractualization and end-of-term or ENDO arrangements, this certificate ensures that its service contractors are compliant with the guidelines and review its contracting arrangements to ensure that it is not engaged in labor-only contracting or other prohibited forms of employment arrangements.
Rights of contractors' employees. So what is a contractor's employee? It refers to an employee of the contractor hired to perform or complete a job or work farmed out by the principal pursuant to a service agreement with the latter. According to the Department of Labor and Employment, these are the rights of contractors' employees. A. Safe and healthful working conditions. Employers must provide workers with every kind of on-the-job protection against injury, sickness, or death through safe and healthful working conditions. B. Labor standards such as but not limited to service incentive leave, rest days, overtime pay, holiday pay, 13th month pay, and separation pay. C. Retirement benefits under the Social Security system or retirement plans of the contractor or subcontractor. D. Social Security and welfare benefits. And lastly, E. Self-organization, collective bargaining, and peaceful concerted activities, including the right to strike. Every worker has the right to self-organization, which is to form or to join any legitimate workers' union, free from interference of their employer or the government. All workers may join a union for the purpose of collective bargaining and is eligible for union membership on the first day of their employment. Collective bargaining is a process between two parties, namely the employer and the union, where the terms and conditions of the employment are fixed and agreed upon. Section 10. Rights of the contractors or subcontractors' employees. All contractors' employees shall be entitled to security of tenure and all the rights and privileges as provided for in the Labor Code. Security of tenure is the right of an employee and mandated by law that protects them from being unjustly terminated from employment by their employers. Every employee shall be assured of security of tenure. No employees can be dismissed from work except for a just or authorized cause and only after due process. Just cause refers to any wrongdoing committed by an employee, while authorized cause refers to economic circumstances that are not the employee's fault.
These are the most important things to do or requirement to be a registered contractor. First, the company should duly have registered to the Securities and Exchange Commission. if it is a corporation, or register the company to domestic trade and industry if it is a single proprietorship, or register to the Cooperative Development Authority if it is cooperative. After the registration, you have to apply for the license or business issued by the government, wherein the contractor company identifies a place to operate. There are so many things to comply with to be a contractor company. You need to list down all equipment the company owns and should show proof of ownership or lease of contract of the equipment or facilities. Also, it should be need to submit audited financial support that they can handle big projects. Specify the specialty of your company. Likewise, you have to issue sworn disclosure that the owner or board of director do not have a picking case or violation with Department of Labor and Employment. And lastly, you have to report your regular workers' contractual or total workforce, also list of clients and services provided to them, but most important, in proof of compliance with substantial capital as defined.